Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Eugene Chan. Our guest tonight is Mr. Simon Wong Kar-Wai, who is the chairman of one of the well-known food and beverage manufacturing companies in Hong Kong, which is also involved in restaurants, e-commerce, and hospitality. He comes from a family that has been in the F&B industry since the 1930s, so he would have gone through the different cycles of the industry. Tonight, we have invited him as chairman of the Chamber of Food and Beverage Industry of Hong Kong to share with us how he and other members of this industry have survived the unprecedented challenges of the last 2 years and the outlook for the future. Welcome, Simon.
Hello, Eugene. Thank you for having me.
Yes, as I just mentioned, you have been in a family that has been with the F&B industry for nearly 80 or even 90 years.
Yes.
You may have gone through all the good and bad times of the industry in Hong Kong. Maybe you can share with the viewers how good were the very good times and when was it?
Wow.
Or still is now.
Talking about the good times, well, if we are talking about after SARS time, we are having some very good times since then.
Right.
At the moment, because of SIPA, a lot of companies or enterprises from the mainland came to Hong Kong.
Right.
And we have the free flow of traveling from the mainland to Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. So at that time, we enjoy very good growth in our economy, particularly for the catering industry. Quite a number of restaurants opened at that time. Mm-hmm. And until 2018, we also recorded the best year in history for Hong Kong's catering industry.
Right, so what you're saying is in the last 20 years, mainly the good times were post-SARS until maybe before the riots.
Before the riots.
Yes.
Yes.
And you know, in casual conversation, we often hear owning a restaurant is a very glamorous life because you could go and eat, you have your friends, and is that a good way to get rich?
Oh, come on. Well, it's not easy to operate a restaurant, in fact, because we have to deal with many different policies, and also we have to face a lot of difficulties in our trade, because we have to deal with people, we have to deal with food costs, and obviously we have to deal with rental increases.
Right.
So this is the three dimensions that we are, feeling very difficult to deal with.
Right, Simon. Apart from that, I mean, I hear from friends who have been in restaurants saying that they're very tied down to the business.
Yes.
Long hours, no holidays, but have a lot of cash flow. Is that true?
Well, of course, you get a lot of cash in. But you also have to pay out a lot of things, including, just I mentioned before, you employ people, then you have to pay the salary. Yes. And because of the rental increase in the past 20 years, we have to pay a lot of rent. Right. And probably the real estate companies are the only the industry that would be benefited.
Right.
But having said that, when we see that during SARS time, our number of restaurants has come down to about, less than 9,000 restaurants.
Really?
But at recent years, the number of restaurants has gone up to almost 17,000.
Wow,
close
so
to 17,000.
Nearly doubled.
Nearly doubled.
We talk about the good times. Let's talk about the bad times. Let's not talk about the COVID or the riots.
Yes.
Has the F&B industry ever had bad times? Everybody has to eat, right?
Well, everybody have to eat, but the thing is, we also encounter a lot of difficulties, like we have the food poisoning issues.
Right.
We have, when the downturn of economy worldwide is also affecting us. Mm-hmm. And we also see that if tourists didn't come to Hong Kong, then we would also suffer in some way. Mm-hmm. When you see that the catering industry needs people to come out to eat. And we also, entertain about 60 million tourists coming to Hong Kong in the past years. But then, like last year, we don't have any tourists coming to Hong Kong.
Right.
So our business has been dropped since then.
Let me ask you, basically in the last 20 years, things have been quite good, but also face the challenges as most businesses do. I was just kidding, saying that you make big money. I'm sure every industry has its own difficulties.
Yes.
But how about, if we talk about the riots and the COVID, how bad has it hit the industry? How bad has it been?
In 2019, in June, actually, we see that our business has been affected greatly by the riot. Before that time, actually, we still enjoyed the first 5 months business growth.
Right.
But after that, for the next 7 months, our business has been dropped by 17 billion for that 7 months. So overall, in 2019, our business turnover has come down to about 10%.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And just now you mentioned we have nearly 17,000 restaurants in Hong Kong.
Yes.
How many has closed or for permanently?
Well, in 2019, about 400 restaurants has been closed.
Right.
And actually, the worst time is in 2020 because of the COVID. About 2,500 restaurants have been closing down.
Right.
And when we also see that the unemployment issues has been affecting us so bad, and a lot of employees in our catering industry has been laid off, or they don't have enough work.
Right.
So this is a very difficult time for us.
So even if the restaurants still keep open, I'm sure some of the staff has to be laid off or even reduce the salary.
The salaries.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
So which sector is the hardest hit? Are the cafes or the top end restaurant or the mid range? Which is the most affected ones?
The most affected ones are the big Chinese restaurants that hold banquets.
Right, those are the most hardest hit.
Yeah, because during the COVID period, we have the social distancing measures.
Right.
We even have what we call the ABCD categories of restaurants. And before this year, there are measures that at some times there are only we can only allow 4 people to sit in a table.
Yes.
This would hurt the Chinese restaurants very much because they cannot do wedding banquets or large crowd of social gathering.
Yes, Simon, as a president of the Federation of Restaurant-Related Trades, you said in a recent SCMP interview that all the booking up until Christmas was fully booked, and I assume the same for the New Year that has just passed.
Yes.
Do you expect the same trend will happen in Chinese New Year?
Well, it won't be that good for the Chinese New Year, as I see that the government has rolled out the voucher.
Right.
Since August 1st.
Yes.
And then in December, actually December 9th is the last rollout of the voucher.
Right.
This actually helped the economy to recover, especially help the consumer industry to recover. Yeah. People want to come out and eat and dine, and Yeah, we
want to also ask you that we read in newspaper, I'm sure viewers do read a lot, that the supply side of food and transportation have all been under a lot of pressure.
Yes.
Has that increased to the cost of your industry?
Oh yes, for the past 3 to 6 months, the food cost has been increased by about 15% in average.
But how about price of dishes when we go out? Will the price also increase?
The price has also increased, particularly in December. When we have a lot of people coming out dining, the food cost obviously would come up. And we see that the average cost or average ticket cost for consumers has jumped up by about 15%.
Right, yes.
But, strangely, people seems to be used to the price increase. They would accept.
Yeah, they will. They want still want to come out to eat.
Right.
So you are predicting the catering industry to reach $11.5 billion for this month, compared to $10 billion in 2018. Do you expect a trend of people spending money will still continue in 2022? I mean, I know that Chinese New Year may be a bit tough, but in the next 12 months, are you confident?
Well, for the next 12 months, we are facing a lot of challenges. And we are also looking into whether the government would help the industry, particularly the catering industry,
right,
to sustain the business. Because, as I said, the e-voucher actually helped the industry's business. But we have been talking to the financial secretary whether he would also roll out the third round or the fourth round of relief fund.
Right, okay.
See what he
That's what he will do. Okay, we will go for a break, and don't go away. Welcome back. We have been talking to Mr. Simon Wong, who has been sharing with us the huge challenges the F&B industry has had to face over the last 2 years. So Simon, before the break, we were talking about all the challenges, but I'm sure the viewers will want to know that we have this vaccine bubble.
Yes.
How has that been affecting the business? We have your A, B, C, D. I mean, people getting used to different terms now. Has it helped or has it not helped?
Well, in fact, the ABCD type of restaurants that the government designed has helped to fight against the pandemic.
Right.
And in some way, we accept this idea and we try to push hard for our frontline people, especially, to get the jabs. And right now, we have over 80 or 85% of our employees have already been vaccinated.
Right.
But the government is talking about having the vaccine bubble extended across all type of industries or listed premises before Chinese New Year. And what we can do is, we would try to accommodate the government's policies and see how we can push all our employees to get vaccination.
Right.
But the thing is, we are also worried about some other issues. For example, the elderly people, they might not be able to use the phones, etc. And they might be difficult to go into the restaurants without showing the vaccination records. So in this case, we will discuss with the government on how to give us some more guidelines about doing that.
Yes, Simon, I've got a personal question for you because we are in public services, we do come up to eat, and very often we don't leave the premises until early hours in the morning. But for the last 2 years, because of COVID, everything has been shut down and people having dinners home, finishing by 10 o'clock. So does the type D businesses, if you open up after 12 o'clock with 12 people, are people used to coming back to spend time at the restaurant again compared to before? I wanted to know.
Oh yeah, obviously. When we have more restaurants becoming type C and D, that means for type C, we can allow people to sit in tables with 6 people.
6 people, yes.
And then for D type, we can allow 12 people.
Yes.
And then with a total limit of customers for type D with 240 guests. So in this case, a lot of banquets come back.
Yes.
And that's actually saved the Chinese restaurants quite a bit because
really?
Before they don't have virtually no business at all.
We had that Leave Home Safe app that we have to show to go in. Honestly, has it stopped people from coming?
No, before some restaurant owners are worried about if the mandatory Live Home Safe apps would, stop people from going into restaurants, and their business might be dropped by 30%. That's their worry. But when we see the figures in December, we see that actually our business in December has increased by, it's even better than 2018 business. So the Live Home Safe apps doesn't affect our business at all. In fact, I see that people are more willing to use the apps, and it's more convenient. And when we see that some people are reluctant to use the apps, and they still want to use the delivery services, for their food or meals, then it's their choice.
Right. Simon, so far, from what we've discussed so far, the government's vaccine bubble, the Live Home Safe app, even the consumption voucher that you just mentioned, or even there are some subsidy scheme for our staff, everything has helped. So the government is doing the right thing for the first time.
I would say so. I actually praise the government, including Kerry and also Paul, to roll out these kind of policies to us.
So do you want them to do more at this stage, or you want them to keep the reserve just in case we have another big wave like the Omicron coming up?
Well, when we see that the government still have a lot of reserve in the treasury, and we are talking to the Financial Secretary, Paul Chan, whether he would roll another round of or continue the relief program in 2022. Because when we see that once the consumption voucher has been stopped, seems that the buying power has also been relaxed a little bit, and I don't know if the business would sustain for the whole year 2022. And also we are very worried about the coronavirus variant, because Omicron is it seems that it's very getting infectious into the community.
Yeah, we will talk about that in a minute. But before we move on to that, I want to ask you your personal view. I mean, I'm not going to hold you to it. So far, we said the government has been doing quite a good job. And there has been a recent talks of actually before Chinese New Year, they're going to put in even more of a social distancing measures like the vaccine bubble even further. That means if you haven't got vaccine, basically you just can't walk into the list of places, as you have said. Are you confident that the business is still going to thrive?
Well, when judging from the last 2 days or last few days records, more people, especially the elderly, are going to get the jabs. And that would also help increase of vaccination for the whole population. And if the population have about 90% of people getting vaccinated, then we are confident that we can overcome the pandemic. And so we are not too worried about for the economy growth in 2022. And especially when Mr. Paul Chan, the Financial Secretary, said that, well, last year we already enjoy 6.4% in GDP growth, and in the coming years we are still having the upward trend on that.
Now I'm going to ask you that, look, some future challenges. See, with SARS, we have a lot of restaurants coming up, but people getting more health conscious. I think your business, you have developed more organic food. And now, with this new normal, as you always call, that people starting to eat from home with takeaways and all that. How long do you think this new normal will be, and will this become a real normal?
The norm will be changed for our daily life, especially for the catering industry. When we see that in the past 2 years, large restaurants has been closing down, a lot more smaller restaurants has been opening up. In terms of the number of restaurants, we see that actually it has surpassed the number before COVID. This is very strange. But when we see that those restaurants are actually they're quite small restaurants, only operated by 2 or 3 or 4 people, and the size is very small. But then we are looking ahead in 2022. We are facing a lot of other challenges, especially for the shortage of manpower.
Right.
In our industry, in the past months, we have been trying very hard to recruit a member to come back to the industry. But during the pandemic period in the past 2 years, since a lot of restaurants have been closing down and people have been laid off, and before they're restaurant people, but then they have changed their jobs to security, to in other industries.
Right. So you're saying that with this new normal, or maybe we call the new way of ordering food, new way of packaging, as you actually know, some of the restaurants, even the Michelin star restaurants, they can do takeaways now. Do you think people will get accustomed to this new taste of food, that they don't want to go back to restaurants and enjoy anymore?
Well, for people in Hong Kong, I think that we still want to eat good food. We have our requirement.
Okay.
And for delivery service, of course, you can, feed yourself.
Right, okay.
But then you cannot enjoy the type of
the company or the ambience.
Of course, this
Simon,
is different.
in the last part of the show, I know you are an election committee member.
Yes.
You know that in less than around 80 days, the next chief executive will be elected in end of March. What will be your wish list to the potential candidate from your sector?
Oh, from my sector, of course, we want our economy to be back, and so our business will be recovered.
How we want them to do it?
First of all, we would want the new government to roll out some kind of programs to us. And before, during the pandemic time, Mr. Paul Chan also rolled out the relief fund.
Right.
And in future, I think the government has to focus on the economy, as well as how to help the business to grow, not only in Hong Kong, but also in the GBA.
Yeah. How will you encourage young people to go there?
We have to take them to see, actually to GBA area.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they only listen, they won't experience the type of thing we want.
Right. Thank you for coming, Simon, to share with us the inside story of the very tough journey that the F&B industry has had to take over the last 2 years. I'm sure our viewers will be most keen to support our restaurants, and we all look forward to dining out at Chinese New Year without fear. Thank you all for watching, and have a good week and good night.